Please note that today's meeting may be recorded. This recording will be broadcast on the authority's website and may be used for training purposes by the Democratic Services Department. All attendees will be in view of the camera, and by attending, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined above. So, Prynawn da, croeso I cyfarfod, diolch I chi gyda'r amdod. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee meeting of Wednesday, 18th of October 2023 at 5 p.m. Agenda item 1 is apologies for absence. I believe everybody's here and online, so there are no apologies. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respective matters contained in the agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 relating to the Council Tax, the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Members' Code of Conduct. Are there any members who wish to make a declaration of interest on tonight's agenda? Okay, nobody's indicating. We will continue. Councillor Lee Davis.
Just before 6 o'clock. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 1. P-23-0131, Bishop Headley High School, Gwynfarin Road, Pendarran, Merthyr Tydfil, the considered report of the Chief Executive. The report authors are Judith Jones, and the case officer is David Cross. Craig Watkins is also in attendance. Craig has just taken up the role of the Planning Services Manager, and I believe David Cross will now give a brief summary of the report.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, let me just screen share. Come up, everyone. Okay, so this application relates to Bishop Headley High School, which is largely surrounded by the residential areas of Pendarran and Gallinacre. The school grounds itself is split into 2 sort of distinct areas, with the main school building situated on the northern side of the site, with associated play areas and parking areas. And the southern to the south end, there's additional classroom buildings, a sports hall, and playing fields. These 2 areas are effectively separated by Gwynfarin Road, but the 2 sites are still connected via a pedestrian underpass. The development also includes an area of open grassland to the west of the site. So just looking at the plan on the screen, you can see this is where the current school site is at the moment. It's sort of in the centre of that plan. To the south then is the other classrooms and sports hall, and then there's an area of land to the west, which I believe is referred to as the Greenie, and there's a sports field and grassland area there. The next slide gives a sort of a bit of a better impression of the development in context. So planning permission is sought for the phased demolition of the existing Bishop Headley High School and the construction of a new school within the existing site. The intention is to create a new all-year 3 to 16 school to replace St Aloysius Primary School, Federation St Illtyd School, St Mary's Primary School, and of course Bishop Headley School as well. The new school building would accommodate 525 pupils at primary level, 600 pupils at secondary level, and 100 pupils within the nursery. The proposed development section of this report sets out in more detail the nature and scale of the proposed works. In essence, the initial phase of the development would involve the demolition of the main school building and the provision of a temporary car park and site offices on the grassland area to the west of Gallinacre Road. Temporary classrooms would also be set up in the southern part of the school grounds. And in subsequent phases, the school buildings in the southern part of the site would then be demolished, with the exception of the existing sports hall, which would be extended and renovated. And a new car park with a drop-off area would also be constructed in that location of the former classrooms, as well as various other highway improvements. Landscape works are proposed, which includes various improvements to the existing sports fields, pitches, and the provision of a new sports pitch or improved sports pitch on the land to the west of Galanacha. Once the development is complete, the temporary car park on that side of the site would be removed, and then that would be restored back to grassland area with ecological enhancements. Following the consultation exercise, there were no objections received from either the internal or external consultees, subject to the provision of various conditions. And as a result of the publicity exercise, one letter of objection was received, which highlighted various concerns that largely related to the nuisance and environmental impacts associated with the temporary car park. So those concerns are largely temporary in nature. The planning consideration section of the report sets out in more detail the merits of the proposal. In principle, the development is acceptable, given that the school is already well established on the site. Whilst the proposal seeks to replace a number of existing faith schools in the local area, there's a clear intention as part of its vision to provide an all-through 3 to 16 school with the new and improved education facilities, with a strong emphasis on community cohesion and integration between pupils. The redevelopment of the site creates an opportunity to provide a new modern building of an appropriate design and scale that has its own identity, which would be a focal point to the local community and seek to contribute and enhance the overall quality and character of that surrounding environment. The overall design reflects the constraints of the site and ensures it's fit for purpose with appropriate communal areas and distinct play spaces around the buildings. The impact on the local highway network has been carefully considered, and the provision of a new car park with appropriate drop-off points and associated highway improvements would ensure that development integrates well without giving rise to significant traffic or highway safety concerns. It's acknowledged that the development is situated close to residential areas and that there is some potential to impact on the local amenities. In this regard, the impacts would not differ too greatly from the existing use of the school site, and it's clear from the pre-application consultation that came before the application was submitted and following the publicity exercise that no significant concerns have been raised from residents. It's been identified that the site does have some ecological interest, particularly in respect of bats that use part of the school building, but there would be appropriate mitigation measures implemented, and the development would be subject to the need for a bat licence in any case from Natural Resources Wales. So for the reasons set out in the report, the development is deemed to be acceptable, and it's recommended that planning permission be granted, subject to the conditions set out on pages 20 to 27, on page 20 to 27. I'll just take you through a few slides just to give you a bit more information on the proposal. So this is the nature of the development as the overall layout. So at the centre of the site where the current high school building is, you can see the new building would sit largely in the same sort of position. There'd be various play areas provided around the building, and that would be landscaped with new trees and woodland areas provided. To the south, where the other school buildings are, that would be demolished. As you can see, there'll be a new car park provided. There'll also be sort of a drop-off area for the coaches and vehicles. And then on the western side, you've got the playing field, which would be secured and is only intended to be used by the school, so it's not open to the general public. And the temporary car park would be located in the bottom part of that area, and the intention is for that to be restored back to a grassland area for recreation, general informal use, as well as including informal ecological enhancements. The school building itself, as I say, it's an all-through school from 3 to 16. And what they're proposing is to essentially divide the school up into different sections. So the area that's kind of like red, that would be used for the pupils within the primary year. And that orange strip here is the nursery that would be accommodated. And the southern part of that building then is the secondary school element, with the green bits in the middle being the sort of communal area where you have places of worship and things that link all the different uses, the different elements or age groups together. And obviously the areas sort of shaded red and blue and things are the play spaces around the building, the outside play areas. The purple area is the sports hall, which would be extended. So in terms of the elevations, this is how the development would sit within the context, and you can see as I go through the slides that there are some big changes in levels. The top image is what would be perceived from Gallinucka Road, so that's the main frontage on the west side. The southern part then, the bottom elevation is the aspect that would be fronting on towards Gwynfaron Road, and that's essentially the secondary access. So at the bottom level there, that's where the persons going from the car park through the underpass, that's how they would gain access into the building then from the bottom. So as you can see in these sections, there's quite a difference in levels. The north side, that's looking down from where the existing car park is, I suppose, down towards Gwynfaron Road. And as you can see, there's some steep levels differences there. And similarly, the bottom elevation is the east side. So that's the aspect that effectively is orientated towards the allotments. This is the design for the improved sports hall. So as you can see on the plan to the left, the lighter shade area, that's the existing sports hall that's there. That would be retained and refurbished. The smaller section then to the side would be the extended part. Essentially, as you can see on the top right diagram, it would be 2 blocks which are linked together with a sort of a low-level corridor connecting the 2 buildings together. The material finishes as well would be improved to sort of match that of the school, so there's a bit of cohesion within the development. This isometric plan just gives you perhaps a little bit better impression of how the development would sit within the site and the various levels. You can see that the land is raised in some parts of the site, and it sort of scales again at the back. And you can sort of get an appreciation then of the sort of general shape and form of the building within the site. These are just a couple of illustrations just to show what the aspirations are. So the picture on the top right there, that's where the building is recessed. You've got the main reception to the school and into the communal area, and they're proposing this is like a sort of a plaza with some disabled parking area near the entrance. Again, to the bottom left is the sort of the introduction of planting along parts of the building. I think this particular section is near the nursery. And there'll be some facilities within the school grounds where things like amphitheatre spaces can be provided to add to the educational facilities. And then these 3 diagrams just set out an example of some of the play spaces that are in different parts of the school, and they're designed with the shape of the building to kind of be separated from each other. So whilst the pupils can mingle together within the school, the play spaces are separated to the relevant school years. So this is just a couple of photographs really just to show what the site is like as it stands. So as you can see at the top there, this is the main school building. The white sort of line crossing the road there is the existing underpass. That would be retained, although the shelter route, the sort of the profile metal roofing that is there, that will all be removed. And there will be a new lift provided at the end. There's currently some steps there, but they'll provide an access lift there for disabled users. As you can see, the extent of the school in the southern part of the site, all of that would be demolished. The proposed car park is essentially in that area, and then the existing play spaces and pitches, they would be essentially retained and improved, and the existing sports hall there would be, as I say, extended and upgraded. This just gives you a view of the site at the junction of Gwynfaron Road with Gallinucka Road. So you can see the school building sits quite comfortably at the moment within the landscape. The proposal would be effectively very similar to that, albeit I think it would be slightly higher. So there'd be another floor on that, but it would, I think, sit quite comfortably within that landscape. So this is the existing entrance into the southern part of the site. This is where access will be, they'll utilize the same access into that part, which all of those buildings you see there, they will be removed, and then you'll have the proposed car park and drop-off areas. Sort of generally in the same position. This is looking back towards the school. I think much of the hedgerows and things like that would be removed, with new planting introduced, and that will open up the site so that the building sort of is more the focal point within the street scene. The school site itself doesn't really back onto that many houses, whilst it sort of sits in the centre of a number of estates. These photos perhaps are the areas where the houses are closest to the site, to the school site. You can see it's kind of relatively open. That will largely remain the same. Obviously in the picture on the left, you can see the existing school building. A lot of that will be removed. So I don't think there'll be any significant impacts on those residents, which seems to be the case in terms of the representations we've received. And I think that's everything. Thank you, Chair.
Lovely. Thank you very much, David. I'm going to open it up to questions from members, and we'll start with Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I've just got two, and it's under the heading ground conditions, the first one. And the 5th paragraph down on page 18, it refers to land contamination. It says no significant concerns were identified in the SIR. I don't know, can somebody tell me what the SIR is? Site investigation, something? Sorry? Or site investigation report. And it refers then to elevated levels of beryllium and 3 PAH compounds. What does PAH mean? P-A-H?
Sorry, so what was it?
PAH. P-A-H. PAH compounds.
I don't know the exact acronym for that, but that's the reference to the compounds within the site investigation report.
Right. And then it refers to 3 items that were noted in the ground conditions, particularly in areas of made ground. It goes on to say that given the extent of the built development and hard surfacing proposed in the northern part of the site, the SIR considers the exposure to any land contamination would be eliminated. So does that mean that these items will be taken out, or will they be completely concreted over, never to be found again?
So much of the school site is, the footprint of the building is much larger. There are hard standing areas where you've got the access roads and the parking spaces around the school. So there will be green spaces still around, but obviously there'll be playground areas and hard surfaces for the access, parking, the building. So a large area of that land will effectively be covered by either surface treatment, footpaths and things like that, or by the building. That's not to say that all of the areas would be totally covered, but it'd be likely that some of those areas are not contaminated. But then in elsewhere across the site where you've got in southern part of the site, for instance, you've got the hard standing area for the car park, but any areas where you've got the play areas and things like that, if they need to, they can introduce the clean topsoil of up to 600 mil. So like, for instance, like where you've got the playing fields over on the west side of Gallinacre Road.
So, Chair, when they were starting the building work and they are digging down, are they likely to come across these items which are in the soil there or not?
Yeah, quite possibly, yeah. And
So do they need to be disturbed? They won't to be removed. That's what I'm after, really.
It's not uncommon to come across elevated metals or contaminants within the ground. There will be obviously, as part of the conditions that have been attached, which have been some of which are requested from Natural Resources Wales, there'll be a need to do a further investigation, and that will set out further what precautions and measures need to be put in place when they're doing those works. If there is contaminated material, any of that material that, for instance, that is not to be retained on site, there'll be measures to take that off, appropriately. But then the areas which, where they're digging the footings and things like that, because those areas will be built up, the structure or hard surfaces effectively provide a barrier then between any contaminated material below it and the users, the people using the school building.
So when they start the digging, they come across, but it'll be monitored. Is that?
Yeah,
right?
so they'll have to do they'll have to take further soil samples and things like that, and they'll have to investigate the ground condition. That part of the need for the site investigation, further investigations, obviously, because there's mine workings, and on the other side there's an old tip as well. So there's a lot of things that they still need to look at. But they're things that can be typically addressed, and NRW have asked for those details to be provided.
Yeah, thanks. My other question is in relation to the traffic impact assessment. It's difficult. We can see the plans here. I've read the report, but there's going to be over 1,100 odd plus pupils there of various ages. So can you give me some idea? Does anyone know what? I think it's still going to, the primary school pupils, are they still going to retain the starting times and finishing times? And the high school will have the same starting and finishing times. There's going to be a lot of traffic movements there. 600 pupils there, Bishop Headley, 500 or 525 primary school. So for me, reading this report, there must be twice the amount of traffic going in all directions around there. But from what I've read in the report, they've examined it, and everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. Well, any of us, as I do, are on the school run. And frankly, starting times and school times, it's pretty chaotic.
Well, in terms of the school times, it hasn't been set out in the application whether there'll be any change to, or what this particular school times might be for the different sort of year groups, and that's something that can be managed by the school, accordingly. In terms of the traffic assessment, obviously there was a traffic impact assessment undertaken. There were 3 junctions that triggered the need to look at the capacity, and that was Gallinucker Road, where it joins 10th Avenue, Gwynfarren Road with Alexandra Avenue, and then obviously the worst affected was, as you would imagine, is Gwynfarren Road, where it meets Gallinucker Road, that junction just outside the school there. That was the worst affected, and that in the report it set out there was an increase of traffic of around 41%, based on what's already there. The biggest impact is coming from the different primary schools that are now located, and obviously the secondary element of it is largely the same. So there is, I think, with the nursery as well, I think it was about 525 pupils. Now, the report sort of indicates that there may be a rise in the number of a slight rise in the number of people bringing their children by car, but they also anticipate there'll be a rise in the number of pupils either travelling by school bus or by public transport as well. So that would offset some of the impacts, and obviously the traffic impact then in the other areas where the school currently operate, that would obviously be reduced as well. What they then did in the report is they undertook a ratio of flow capacity, which is essentially to look at the junctions, assess during peak times where traffic would be flowing, what percentage would go left or what percentage would go right. And within that, there's a calculation which, if it exceeds 1, I can't define how that is, but if it exceeds 1, it usually means there's a problem in terms of its capacity. The assessment indicated that the majority of them were all way below 1. The ones that were affected here, the most affected, they were all under 1, which suggests that despite the increase in amount of traffic, the junctions have the capacity to accommodate traffic movement within reasonable limits.
And of course, you've got the Gwenfarren School, which is in very close proximity, just round the corner, virtually from there. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor David Isaac.
Thanks. Basically, it's to lead on from what my colleague Clive has just asked about traffic. I take you to page 14, and it says Gwenfarren Road and Gallagher Road would experience an increase in traffic, and this will be balanced by a decrease in traffic near the 3 primary schools that are being vacated. The traffic analysis and junction modelling has established that Gwenfarren Road and Gallagher Road has a capacity to accept anticipated increase in traffic. I go back to last year, and when we were talking about this, and the councillors from Pendarren asked to see the traffic report, as we have concerns over not only Gallagher Road, but also Gwenfarren Road leading up towards the Rocky Road. It travels the length from the Rocky Road through the Pendarren streets to this junction on Gallagher Road. Now, on this Gwenfarren Road, we have raised concerns over junctions on this road being dangerous even now. The speed of traffic going through there on times is ludicrous. And by Royal Crescent, there's a bend in the road, as just as it goes into the 20-mile-an-hour zone, that's impossible to navigate with traffic coming up towards Rocky Road and traffic going down, because houses jut into the road. We'd need some traffic calming measures there, just to stop collisions with the increased amount of traffic. Also, you were saying about increased parking, and although I understand they are trying to put limitations and parking bays on Gwenfarren Road outside the school, if you were to drive up there tomorrow at around about 2:30, 3 o'clock, the road is almost permanently blocked. Yes. So we'd have to definitely look at the amount of car parking space for drop off and parents coming into that area. Not only do they disobey the drop-off areas, they park on the zebra crossing that you've seen, and basically it's like a racetrack at around this time, going up through Gwenfarren Road towards Rocky Road. Those being taken into account, there's only one further question I'd have to ask, is the playing field. What access is proposed to get there? Going back to my old profession, if it's going to be a rugby field, we need to get emergency vehicles closer to a rugby field than having to wheel them up and down a path. Dr. Clive, yeah, can back me up in saying that some injuries can be made worse by wheeling people head first down a path. And God forbid we get a serious injury on this field, we need to be able to get vehicles on there.
To answer your first question about safety on the existing highway, part of the proposals is at the junction where you've got Gwenfarren meeting Gallagher Road, they're proposing to create a tabletop, like a raised platform to effectively slow traffic, like speed bumps, approaching that junction. There are a number of crossing points to be provided as well. There's one sort of on this, if I show you on this plan, might be easier. There's one roughly at that halfway point there, and there's another one proposed at the top of the site, as well as the crossings then between across Gwynfarn Road and the underpass. So there's a number of opportunities there for people to cross safely. But obviously, in terms of traffic speeds, I think from my understanding, the main thing is the tabletop, the raised platform at that junction as people are approaching the site. There is obviously, it's in the council's gift to introduce further traffic speed measures along Gallinacre Road, or further down, if need be. That's not a problem, and that's something that can be monitored through the highway department. In terms of the other point then about access to the playing field on the west side there, it's proposed to create a temporary access where this sort of path is, which would effectively serve the temporary car park and the site offices. Once that is all cleared, the intention is to retain that vehicular access. It's not intended to serve as an vehicular access. It'll essentially be a pedestrian route then between the school and the playing fields. Hence, there's a crossing to be provided there. But that will be designed so that if in the event there is an accident, that emergency vehicles can drive straight up to the sports field.
Yeah, thanks. I understand Gallinacre Road, Gwynfarn Road, and the road going up past Royal Crescent up towards Hayden Terrace definitely needs looking at. The impact of further traffic coming along that street is going to cause a problem for the residents of Pendarren. The junctions need to be looked at. I've already spoken to Highways over a junction which is on a lane behind Brimalla Street. There have been a number of near misses there because of the view they get as they come up the lane. So that definitely has to be looked at before traffic is given the okay to come down there.
Yeah, just to highlight that the developers are already talking with the highway department to look at the highway arrangements and what can be implemented, and that would normally come about through a Section 278 agreement. So they're already looking at what improvements can be done. Like I say, some of the traffic calming. If there's other things, in terms of the alignment of the highways and things like that, if there's other things that need to be done, that can be picked up through that process as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David Isaac. Councillor Lee Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Couple of questions. In terms of the tunnel, you said there was a lift going between the top phase and the lower phase. What about the lower phase then? Obviously, you've got sports field just behind Gwynfarn School there. Will it be disabled access all throughout that lower part of the school? Because it's quite steep.
My understanding is that, as you can see, there's a network of paths in the southern part there, which will essentially ramp the access down the terrain, so it should be accessible then for all users.
Okay, great. Following on to that, the changing rooms for the rugby pitch, I believe, are in the indoor sports facility at the bottom. So the children are expected to walk through the tunnel with their football boots, up the steps, across the road, and over to the rugby pitch. Is that correct?
Are you referring to this picture over here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess there is a practical issue there for them. I don't know whether they would be expected to walk in studded boots all the way, but they may be.
There's no change in facilities.
There's no change in facilities on that site, so they would either do it within the school and walk over, or they may use the changing rooms, and the sports hall at the bottom of the site.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think that's ideal, expecting children to walk in football boots across a road, especially with studs. They're not supposed to be on tarmac and concrete either. So I think that needs looking at. There is a changing room on the greenie already, which is in need of some serious attention. You know, has any thought been done to put the changing rooms there instead? And so the community can use those as well as the school?
Whereabouts are the changing rooms? Are
The
you
other side of that rugby pitch.
on this site here?
Yeah, where that rugby pitch is at the top of there, just to the right, there's a set of
Oh,
changing.
I think that pitch is separate to this site anyway. This pitch is not available other than for the school users.
Yeah, you know, that phrase, but it is not, as a community worker, that's not a phrase I'd like to hear. It's not accessible for community, that, you know, when we're looking at community focused schools as well. But the other thing that concerns me, we're developing a emergency access to a rugby pitch for a school when the other side of that pitch, there's 2 football pitches with no emergency access or no decent emergency access, with 200 children a week playing on that surface. But we're going to build a rugby pitch for children who are going to use it now and again, but not for the community. When with all these pitches, I really think we need to be building emergency access for all these pitches.
I wouldn't disagree if there's the scope to introduce a better access to the other pitches. Then obviously that can be reviewed, but that's not been put forward as part of this application.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee Davis. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Can I pursue the aspect of school children crossing the road to get to the sports field? And I understand what you explained about the safety aspects, but there's going to be children daily crossing that busy road. So what type of crossing are we talking about? Is it an ordinary pedestrian crossing? Or is it something more robust? Taking into account you've got school kids, even though they may well have their PE teachers with them, we all know what the likely thing is going to happen, and that's 1 or 2 kids will run out in the road beforehand. So what type of crossing, safe crossing, are you going to put there?
Well, there's a number of crossings proposed. I believe the ones crossing the site, I think they're, you know, I don't know which bird it is. Sometimes they're puffins and things, but it'll be a signalized, as I understand it, a signalized crossing. So that would be, you know, to ensure that traffic stops. I think I haven't got the plan in front of me, but there's a crossing where the access into to that path up leading up to the sports field. There's a crossing further up at Galanacha Road, and then within the site itself, to the south of the site, then you've got the zebra crossing there, and then the underpass to the southern part of the site.
Yeah, but the one where they using the sports field, particularly in my view, needs to be particularly looked at as to the type they are put in there.
So the pedestrian crossing which crosses to the sports field is a puffin pedestrian crossing.
Can you remind which one is which?
I think I think there's different types of signalized, but I think, as I understand, it's a signalized.
Yeah, that's the one with the zigzags in front either side.
Yeah.
Of it.
Yeah. This is something that would, whilst it's kind of put forward as part of the application, is under the council's full control as part of the, as I say, the highway agreements.
All I'm saying is it's something that needs to be given careful thought.
Yeah.
Because the number of youngsters going back and forth there, and I presume there'll be no primary school children using that crossing. It'll only be the secondary age pupils.
It's not specified in the application which school groups.
So we could have either going across that field. So there's even more reason to make sure that we get that one right.
I agree.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor David Isaac.
Yeah, thanks. And can I just pick up on what Clive was saying about the access, the puffin as we have? would there be barriers there, as in to sort of corral them towards the?
Yeah, I've got a plan here, but I can't show it unfortunately. But yeah, there'll be railings to either side of the crossing to stop people just wandering across before they actually get to the crossing point.
Yes, thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor David Isaac. Any other members with questions? Okay, nobody's indicating. Not online? No. Any members with comments? Nobody's indicating. I've just got one, and it's just, to be honest, it's just for the benefit of those watching proceedings tonight or in the future on the council's Facebook channel. I'm wondering why possibly there hasn't been as many questions as there would normally be for such a large project. But I'd just like to remind everyone that this went through two very heated full council meetings, one on the 7th of December 2021 and one on the 16th of March 2022. Councillor Clive Jones.
And to add to that, Chair, there was also pre-planning, am I right, pre-planning meetings that took place. Certainly in the report, it says that there were meetings with residents, which I presume it was a part of the pre-planning process.
Yeah, so because it's a major application, there's a statutory pre-application process consultation with the residents, and I think they had very little response generally, but the response they did have was actually in support of it. Particularly, I think it was from the residents that back on to on Gallinacher Road.
Yeah,
and
but Chair, there was an opportunity given on more than one occasion for residents to ask the questions, and if they wanted to understand, face to face. So that's part of it, and there's one objection in which they're entitled to put in there. And while I'm talking, I just hope, Chair, that all the building works will be held according to plan, and that we don't uncover any untoward problems when they start putting spades and diggers there, which sometimes happens.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Any other comments from members? Nobody's indicating. So have we got someone to propose this? Councillor Clive Tubby proposes. Councillor Clive Jones seconds. Okay. Can we take this to the vote then, please? Are we going to do by hand or electronic? Okay. And Councillor Malcolm Colbrand is online.
Yeah, I've voted on the screen, Chair, as in favour.
Okay. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, agenda items 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are information reports only. And agenda item number 5, any other business deemed urgent by the chair. I have none. I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. See you all.
All the best, Malcolm. Take care, everyone.